I've got a 2006 Chevrolet Tahoe that cranks, starts, and then shuts right back off immediately. Now, of course, because it shuts right back off, I've got lights on the instrument cluster, no security light on, and the scan tool won't talk to roughly more than half of the modules. So today in this video, I'm going to show you how a shorted class 2 data line can shut down the entire vehicle, and then teach you how to isolate where the problem is using SP205. I'm Bill, and this is Bill Teaches Automotive Technology. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, got a 2006 Tahoe that will crank, start just for a second, shut right back off. And using our scan tool, we cannot communicate with hardly any modules at all. And that's kind of a tough situation. No code stored except for, no communication codes, U1000, no communication on the class 2 serial data bus. So before we get too deep into it, let me explain what class 2 is. Prior to busing computers or networking computers on vehicles, all the information that computers needed to share with each other, all of the sensors, all of the communication lines would all need to be strung, would all need to be run to each of the computers. Well, this led to extra weight, extra cost, and honestly, it was really complicated for the manufacturers. So they came up with networking, and class 2 was one of the ways to network computers in 2006 for a number of years, actually. Now we use LAN, LIN. Some vehicles use fiber optics. So there's a lot of different ways to network computers on vehicles now for them to communicate with each other. And the more sophisticated newer vehicles get, the faster they need to communicate. And that's why they're moving towards fiber optics and stuff like that. But we're going back to 2006. Why, Bill? Why 2006? Well, my channel is directed more towards do-it-yourselfers or technicians that are new or just wanting to learn something about automobiles that maybe they didn't learn before. So that's why I'm tackling class 2. So with class 2 serial data, the majority of the majority of the computers on a vehicle will communicate with each other through one central hub, and we'll get into that. So what I ran into when I was the service manager was a technician would get something like this, and they're like, holy crap, where do I even start? I can't communicate with anything. There's no codes except U1000. I'm just throwing up my hands and, I'm going to go take a break and give up or whatever. Well, sometimes as technicians, we put blinders on and we only see a very small part of the whole problem. But if you step back and take a look, it kind of makes a little more sense. Sometimes, not always. Now, General Motors does have a flowchart for this very concern. The scan tool does not communicate with a class 2 device. What I don't like is that they buried this flowchart, but let me show it to you. So this is what the flowchart starts out like, and it's named. You actually have to search it. I can't remember where they bury it, but it's well hidden. And it just explains circuit description, diagnostic aids. The engine won't start when there is a total loss. Right here is where I'm at. When there's a total loss of class 2 serial data communication, well, the ignition is off. Bullet point 1, if the class 2 data circuit is shorted to ground or voltage, it will cause problems. So these messages that the computers send, they don't talk to each other. It's all voltage packages, and it is digital. So it's either on or off, and it's a lot of on-off messages. So if you think about it, if you have a circuit that shorted to ground, electricity is trying to find the shortest path to ground. So, hey, if I'm the ECM and I'm sending a message to the transmission control module or the electronic brake control module, and there's a short to ground, my message is going straight to ground. It's not getting where it needs to go. Same thing with a short to power. Now I have someone talking over my signal. So my signal is just all jumbled up, or it's shouting just one voltage, the whole time. So it's not able to receive the signal. And so that's what's shutting this whole thing down. This is indicative of I've got a wire shorted to power, or I've got a wire shorted to ground. Now, there is a flow chart that will walk you through step by step each one of these things. And it's going to look like, it's going to say, have you done this? Yes or no. Check this. Do you have this? Yes or no. But a lot of times the flow charts are kind of a waste of time if you know what you're looking for. And that's what this video is about, to teach you what to look for. So rather than fool with check this, yes, no, check this, yes, no, let's go right to the wiring diagram and see if we maybe can figure out a diagnostic strategy to find out where our issue is that's causing this no start problem. Okay. So I'm going to switch to the schematic now. There we go. All right, so here's our schematic of the class 2 serial data bus. Now, if you look, there's a lot of different computers and modules that are talking on this thing. I'll circle some of them: the radio, the EBCM, the PCM, or I think they call it the ECM in this vehicle. The radio, the EBCM, electronic brake control module, power door lock module, driver's door module. So there's a lot of different modules that talk. And if you notice, in this wiring diagram, all we're seeing is the communication lines between them. And they have one thing in common, okay? And that is this right here. This in the middle is Splice Pack 205. All right, that is SP205. That's the place where instead of running each of these wires, so for example, the passenger door module right here on the very bottom, kind of in the middle, that's the passenger door module. Rather than run a wire from the passenger door module to each of these computers, they decided to run, which makes a lot of sense, saves weight, saves time, saves money. Run it to one central location where they can all talk on the same bus, the class 2 serial data bus, through Splice Pack 205. So let's talk about how to diagnose this now that we know where Splice Pack 205 is. Typically, you're either going to have what's killing this. Now, somewhere within this wiring schematic, we have a short to power or a short to ground. Somewhere in this, we have a short to power or short to ground. Well, holy crap. These modules run from the front of the vehicle all the way to the back. There is a lot of wiring. Are we going to start ripping out modules, ohming with an ohm meter, trying to figure out where to even start? Heck no. I'm going to save you a bunch of time. So let's find out where Splice Pack 205 is located. It's not as hard to get to as you may think. All right, so Splice Pack 205, what we're looking at here, this is the left side, the driver's side of the vehicle. The brake pedal would be about right here, the foot brake pedal. The parking brake pedal would be, of course, right in this area. This big connector that's labeled number 3, that's the connector for the instrument panel fuse block over on the left-hand side, just to give you an idea, to kind of orient you. And then what is labeled number 2 right there, that's the data link connector, or DLC or ALDL way back in the day for some people that are my age. Number one is our Splice pack. All right, so number one right there, that is our Splice pack. Now, what you're going to see is a connector that's going to be taped to the harness, and it's not going to be connected to anything. It's just like a connector with a cap over it. Okay. And I will show you what that cap is in just a minute. I actually took it off the vehicle to show you. And the reason I didn't do this one live is I really don't have the camera equipment to go to a vehicle and do a proper recording. So right now I'm just using the studio that I used to use when I streamed on Twitch to do these videos. And I need to remember to take a picture of my studio and post it for you guys so that you can see my setup. It's pretty sweet. Okay. So what we're looking at here, this is the connector. This is Splice Pack 205, the connector part. And then right here, if you look at the small part, that is where this plug, I'm going to switch to this. There's a little plug. I hope, yeah, you can see that. So this is called a comb. I call this a comb. But this is what connects all of those wires together. It's literally just a bunch of male connectors that will fit right into, and it snaps right into the end of Splice Pack 205. Y'all, this is going to be game changing for you and save you a ton of time diagnosing an issue when you can't communicate with any modules. So like I said earlier, we know that we know that we have a problem somewhere in this, there we go, in this wiring diagram. Okay, so what I just showed you was Splice Pack 205, but what I just did by pulling this comb out, I have now isolated every single one of these computers from each other. So now all we have to do, y'all, all you have to do is get a scan tool, plug it up, and jump from what I'm going to do now. I'm going to show you one more thing. So you'll need to find a picture. What I do with these is I'll print this out. Oops. There we go. I will print this out and have it handy. So let's take a look at this. It shows you how you're looking at this as well. So pay attention to where this clip is right at the top here. All right, so that's the orientation we're looking at this. And this is terminal A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, because they don't use an I, K, L, and then M. Okay? So bring a copy of this under the dash with you. And it helps to have two people doing this as well. And also forgive my sloppy handwriting. As hard as my mom tried to get me to write neatly, it just never stuck. So my apologies on that. All right. So then this is another thing that I would take with me. This is what each one of those pins is in that Splice Pack 205 connector. So check this out. We have, I got to find it. All right. Terminal D, terminal delta goes to our data link connector. Okay. So that's going to go directly to communicate with the scan tool. So plug your scan tool up, and you're definitely not going to be able to communicate with the computer yet, because now we have separated all the computers. But what you're going to do is get a jumper wire, and I have put in the description below an affiliate link to a really nice Automotive jumper wire set, very similar to what I use in the shop. That's excellent for this. So you're going to jump from D delta to, let's just say, A. Okay, so you're going to get a jumper wire, and you're going to go from, get your act together, Bill. There. You're going to go from D, delta, which is A, B, C, D. You're going to go from here to here with a jumper wire. Okay. And D, delta is, D to A, excuse me, A alpha is the radio. So now what you're going to do, once you get the wire from D delta to A alpha, you're going to then go into your scan tool and try to communicate with the radio. If you can communicate with the radio, guess where you don't have a problem? The problem's not in the radio. Okay. And so on. So you're going to go from D to A. And I'll usually put a check mark. If it's okay, I'll put a check mark. D to, let me go ahead and clear these out. So I always keep D circled because I'm going to keep my jumper wire in D all the time because that's going to my data link connector. So I'm going to jump D to A is okay. Delta to Bravo, and then I'm going to check my powertrain control module. Guess what? I could communicate with the PCM, so I know that's good. Check it off. If I have an automatic transfer case, this one was two-wheel drive. I did not have that, but I did have anti-lock brakes. So Delta to Charlie. Could I communicate with the ABS module? By all means, yes, I could. Okay, so we're good so far. Moving on down, D to E, Echo. I connect those two. I'm able to communicate. Good deal. I jump from Delta to Foxtrot. I could not communicate. So I put an X there, but I'm not done. I'm going to keep on through all my modules. Okay. There we go. Then Delta to Golf. The IPC, instrument panel cluster, I could communicate with it, and so on. So H, serial communication circuit, we're not going to be able to communicate with a communication circuit, if you know what I mean. So I ignore those, just like on A, the pink wire circuit 1045, I'm going to ignore it as well. Then go from D, but it's in the same connector. So what this would look like is on the back side of pin A, you would have two wires go into it. So there's really no way to isolate it without cutting anyways. But forget that for now. All right, then we're going to jump from Delta to Juliet. If we had rear wheel steering, I do not have rear wheel steering. So I may check that just for kicks, but I had no communication because I don't have rear steering. So that's not a problem for me. K is not used. L, D to L, the driver's door module, I could communicate. And then D to M, Mike, I could communicate. Well, now, guess what I just did, y'all? Guess what we just did? We just saved ourselves a ton of time, and we narrowed this down to, instead of it being from the front of the vehicle to the back, we have a problem. Now we have narrowed it down to from between our Splice pack, which it's on the driver's side, all the way over to the driver's door module, which is on the right-hand side. So then from that point, I said the driver, I meant the passenger door module. So what I do now is this. I'm going to zoom in. I had not planned this, so I'm going to zoom in to the passenger door module. Let me do this. I'm going to give you a really cool tip that's going to save you a lot of time. Because right now, all we're concerned with is the passenger door module. There are times when I was a tech that I would fold the wiring diagram up just so I could do this and see it bigger, or isolate it. So I'm not focused on everything else now. Now that I know where I'm isolated, where I need to focus my energy, now I can put my blinders on and focus on just this. So I know, and I know this is fuzzy because I've blown it up bigger than the resolution that I printed it in. But I know terminal F at the Splice pack is um, that goes to my passenger door module. So now what I can do, I'm already at F. So let's get a jumper wire, put that jumper wire on a ground somewhere, and go from F to ground. Use our ohm meter, and if we have continuity, if we have anything other than a big OL, which stands for out of limits, then I have a problem. I've got a short to ground. But if it has OL out over limits, that's good. We don't have a short to ground. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just start. I'm going to look and see, is there anything I can disconnect to isolate this circuit? Well, guess what? Right here is the instrument panel junction block. So that's on the right-hand side end of the dash. And there is a connector there. So what I can do, I can disconnect this connector C2. Hang on a minute. There we go. I can disconnect this connector. I think that's C7 actually. I can disconnect and check it now from F to C7. Check the resistance to ground. Check for power on that wire. If I don't have power and if I'm showing out of limits, then I know that section of the wire is good. And now I can just focus on this little tiny section of wire between the instrument panel junction block and the passenger door module, this little section of wire here, which is a short section of wire. And our problem was that this wire was shorted to ground on a bracket behind that instrument panel junction block. So it was actually shorted to ground. It had rubbed through a bracket there and was shorted to ground. So I hope that through this video, I have taught you a really quick way of narrowing down, of isolating the different modules to find out why you can't communicate with any module. This issue is a lot more common than you may think, especially when people start adding on aftermarket radios and aftermarket theft systems or aftermarket door locks and stuff like that can interrupt communications and cause these problems. So again, step back, take a deep breath, look at the wiring diagram, and try to figure out your strategy first, and then, slowly start narrowing down where your problem is. I want to take the time to thank you all very, very much for watching, for subscribing. Please check my other videos out. If you are not familiar with wiring schematics, I have it's my most popular video on how to read wiring schematics. I've got one on relays. I've got another case study, and as well as one on series circuits. So I appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Share it on social media. Hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody, and God bless. I am Bill, and I'm out.